Now on Grid Tonight, it's official. Mick Schumacher is an IndyCar driver. How much potential does the German driver have in the American Open Wheel Racing Series? Genesis Magma Racing announced its driver lineup for the Hypercar class. Did they assemble a strong group of drivers for its inaugural season in the WEC? Adrian Newey will become the new team principal at Aston Martin Racing F1. Is he the right person to stop the revolving door of team principals? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. To all of our viewers here in the United States, wishing you an early happy Thanksgiving, as that is tomorrow here throughout America. Looking forward to getting full tomorrow at dinner. But first, we have to talk about a lot of great motorsports action that's happened in the news cycle within the past week. And I'm Kobe Lambert. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. We have a lot of racing news to discuss tonight. So, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Happy Thanksgiving to you, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody watching. Ready for tomorrow? Me and Matt will be doing our own celebrations of across the pond as well for you. So let's get straight in. This is a busy show. A lot has happened, and especially a lot's happened in the past 24 hours. Now, if you will, forgive me, dear viewers, I left my glasses at home, and I'm staying at my girlfriend's, so I'm having to borrow her reading glasses. So if I look a bit different, that's why. But let's get straight into it, because after testing last month at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, ex-Formula One driver Mick Schumacher has decided to compete in the NTT IndyCar Series in 2026. Schumacher will drive the number 47 Honda for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, joining Graham Rahal and Louis Foster in the driver lineup. Now, the son of the seven-time Formula One world champion Michael Schumacher replaces Devlin DiFrancesco in the seat that used to be the number 30 Honda, as Mick gets the number 47 he used during his two-year Formula One career with Haas. Now, since losing his F1 seat after the 2022 season, Schumacher spent time as an F1 reserve driver for Mercedes and competed in the FIA World Endurance Championship's Hypercar class for Alpine. Now, he hoped to make a return to F1, but after Alpine decided to bring back Franco Colapinto for another year, and with Cadillac F1 heading in another direction, Schumacher decided to shift his focus towards America and get back in a single-seater, which he's clearly very passionate about. Now, in a statement, Schumacher said that after testing at the IMS road course, he immediately felt excited about the car and the American way of motorsport because he considers it more pure and direct racing. The photo taken by Joe Sabinski from Penske Entertainment as well. Well, Kobe, diving straight to you on this one as well. How much potential does Mick Schumacher have as an IndyCar driver?
I want to say that Mick Schumacher coming to the NTT IndyCar Series is an extremely big deal. I'm sure when he's at the track this year, you're going to see a whole bunch of media around Mick Schumacher because he just brings an enormous amount of fanfare. And it's always exciting when you see someone from the Formula One world come over to try out the IndyCar Series and looking at his potential. And I know we've talked about this several times, on this show in regards to Mick Schumacher. Don't pay much attention to what he does in year one. Look at what he does in year two, because if history is going to serve us well, it's going to be a year of learning for Mick in the IndyCar Series, and then year two is when he could potentially take off. But we don't know what the RLL equipment is going to be like this year, based on what they are saying. They've been working really hard over the offseason to try to get even closer to the front of the grid. If all of that hard work pays off, we might see Mick Schumacher do better than we expected. But I think if he's in a really good situation, that he can really carve his own path here in the IndyCar Series. And I know when he was over in Formula One, obviously when you have a famous father like the great Michael Schumacher, people are unfortunately able to achieve hardly anything compared to what his father was able to do in Formula One. But Mick is his own person, and he deserves the opportunity, to carve his own path in motorsports. And I think going to the Rahal team is a good fit for him to start off his IndyCar career, because that's another famous racing name. You have the Schumachers and you have the Rahals coming together. And that's something that Graham Rahal and Mick Schumacher, I'm sure that they can talk about, or maybe they've already talked about it when you have like famous fathers who have accomplished a lot, and trying to follow in their footsteps and do great things in motorsports as well. And I know having in car, something 5 years ago, I would have never believed that something like this was possible. But as we've seen, Mick is also one of them, drivers with Formula 2 experience. And we have quite a handful of drivers from F2 in the IndyCar series right now, given, how they say that the F2 car and the IndyCar, are similar in many kinds of ways. And I think that could also, shorten the learning curve that Mick could have, given some of the similarities between the two cars. And I just think that is really great to have him here on the grid. Regarding his potential in IndyCar, I think that remains to be seen, but I really hope that he has a successful career over here stateside, because he's been talking about wanting to get back on a single seater for a long time. And Josh, you mentioned he's very passionate about it. Every time I look at a Mick Schumacher interview, it seems like he's always saying like, I love single seaters. So I'm finally happy that he's getting back to doing what he loves. In Formula One, as you mentioned, there were some opportunities there that just didn't work out. Being with the Alpine Hypercar team in the World Endurance Championship, I'm sure he was hoping that could potentially lead to him a Formula One race seat with Alpine, replacing Colapinto, but they decided to bring him back, so that door was shut. And then there were rumors for a time that he would join the Cadillac Hypercar team at Hertz Team Joda next season, and then a reserve role with Cadillac F1. But that didn't work either. And then, shifted gears towards the IndyCar series. And he obviously really loved his test session that he did last month, which we covered here on the Grid Network, because that, eventually led to a race seat. And I think he's going to be quite an upgrade over Devlin DeFrancesco. And I find it interesting as well that, Rahal decided to give up his number 30 car for the number 47, because, 47, that's Mick's personal number, means a lot to him and his family. And I think Mick will, have a good first year with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing.
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, and a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. I'll be celebrating, as Josh mentioned, by getting up in the morning and going to work. Great to see Mick Schumacher with a smile back on his face, isn't it? That photo that we flashed up before, that just, he's back in, perhaps going to be back in here. Thank you, Kobe. He's back in his happy place in a single seater. He was very positive after that test that you mentioned at IMS, 4 or 5 weeks ago. And it's a great get for IndyCar, great get for the team. As Kobe said, he's going to bring a lot of attention into the paddock. With the name alone, just brings that with it, and it's going to be going to a racetrack, not quite the same layout, but when he gets to IMS in the summer, on the road course especially, a track that his father has won at multiple times, of course, when we had the Formula One race at Indy. Not much really to think about perhaps for year one. It's going to be a massive learning curve of getting back in a single seater for starters. Of course, he's been doing all the TPC running for Mercedes a couple of years ago alongside his Alpine stint in WEC, which has been up and down, but now he's going to get a chance to get back in a single seater, learn all the tracks, learn the team, learn the tires, learn the flow of the race weekend, learn the media, learn the fans, everything. It's a big change for him. And, let's be honest, coming out of F2, winning the championship with Prema, Mick Schumacher, the son of the great Michael, there was a much hope for him going to Formula One. And he just, he landed at Haas probably at the wrong point in the whole of the Haas story, with everything that was happening with his teammate and the ownership of the team and all that kind of thing, which of course we documented a lot on this show as it was happening through the COVID period and Russia, Ukraine and all that kind of stuff. So let's just hope that he can get in and kick on, towards the end of the season. Let's see. Of course, he's got the ovals to master as well, which is going to be a really interesting thing to see. Someone from the Formula One world coming to do this. Of course, Grosjean did okay on the ovals, but no more than okay in his IndyCar time. So let's see what Mick can do.
Yeah, Schumacher really is going to be quite an interesting one. Adam says, look forward to how Mick Schumacher does an IndyCar in 2026 as well. That is going to be, I think he's going to do quite well personally. I think he's got the speed and momentum, and he's going to have use on his side. We've seen a couple of others come over from F2 and F1 World and do really, really well. He don't think comes in as a Formula One expert in that opinion. I think he's got much more to give. Now, in an exclusive interview with Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com, the RLL team president, Jay Frey, said that the team have a lot of work to do to prepare for Schumacher's arrival. Now, we know that the 26-year-old German driver comes to IndyCar with plenty of fanfare. Now, as Frey mentioned as well, and admitted that many RLL team members were eager to know when Mick's contract was finalised. Now, there's so much buzz and excitement to have him there at RLL as the team hopes to continue building a more competitive IndyCar program. However, despite the boost in team morale due to having a former F1 driver and son of an F1 legend joining the organisation, everyone at RLL is working at full speed ahead with an extensive testing program planned, as you've already mentioned, boys. Now, Fry told Pruitt that the plan is to do several tests with Schumacher, 4 of them being on ovals, 2 road courses, and a street course on the Sebring short course as well. Now, coming from the European racing scene, the biggest challenge for Schumacher, like many who are from the F1 world, will be learning how to race on ovals. Now, Fry says that it's going to be all hands on deck to help him learn that style of racing with only so many ovals you can test at during the winter, as the team would like to get him a little bit of oval experience before IndyCar has their open test at Phoenix in February 2026. Now, there are some plans for him to get some working on the simulator and possibly have some outside people come in to help. The link to this article is in the video description below. But Matt, going back to you on this one, does it sound like RLL has a good plan in place to help Schumacher learn oval racing and shorten his IndyCar learning curve that you mentioned about?
Yeah, I mean, it all sounds great on paper if they can get all this stuff done over the next, basically 2 months, isn't it, until we get to the open test in the beginning of February. And of course, we've got Thanksgiving this week and then Christmas to come. So there is some time off for everyone in team land and everyone in everything land if you're looking forward to Christmas like a lot of us are. Sebring, of course, we know IndyCar do a lot of testing there generally, and that would be some kind of group tests, and you'll get to know some of the competitors and you can pick their brains about the car and the tracks and all that kind of thing during any sort of testing downtime, which will also be very beneficial for Mick, I'm sure. And great that they've kind of laid this on, because let's be honest here, Mick's not bringing bucket loads of money with him like other people might do to this seat, you would imagine. So this is RLL going all out to lay out the red carpet for their young new star and get him as acclimatized to everything before they get to the first race at St. Pete as possible. So it all sounds really good on paper, and for that reason, let's hope everything does go smoothly and they don't get anything lost for weather or all that kind of thing over the winter, because obviously that's going to then put them further behind than they would have been. You don't want to be sitting around looking at rain falling on racetracks when you could be back at the factory doing some simulator work or something of that kind of thing. So let's hope everything goes to plan for them, and we can see Mick being competitive straight away.
Yeah, it really does sound all great on paper. Sound like RLO, come up with a clear and concise plan. But like you mentioned, Matt, we don't really have much time. Got 2-ish months, but with all the holidays, in between. But Jay Fry in that interview, he laid out that is basically going to be full speed ahead until the season opener at St. Pete, because this is a crunch time period for all the IndyCar teams right now, because there's extensive planning going on. You're continuing to work on the program that you had this year to make sure it's even better for next year. And then for a driver like Mick, it really seems like, RLL, as you say, Matt, has rolled out the red carpet for him, because there's not a lot of new drivers who have come to the IndyCar Series who get this type of treatment, who I guess in a way it seemed like they're making him a massive priority compared to some of the others. And that's also a great point you brought up as well, that he's probably not bringing nearly as much cash to the seat as some of the drivers have, like the previous occupant of this seat, which was, Devlin D. Francesco, who brought quite an amount of funding to this organization, as RLL has gotten him out of his contract to bring Mick over stateside. And Jay also brought up a good point about the weather, during the winter time, because during this time of year, some of the oval tracks that you could typically go and test at they're covered in snow or it's so freaking cold you're not going to be able to do anything. And he also brought up the point, if IndyCar is having an open test at a certain track, you can't test there beforehand, so they can't go to Phoenix before the actual open test. But I do think it's a smart idea to get him on an oval all by himself, so he can get used to that instead of just showing up cold turkey, never been on an oval, and we're going to put him out there with everyone at Phoenix Raceway during the open test. So I'm sure they're going to come up with some venues they can go to. I know in the past, although it's not on the IndyCar schedule anymore, we've seen some IndyCar teams go to Texas Motor Speedway. Maybe that could be an option for Mick to go to Texas. I don't know if you could go to Homestead, Miami, places like that. And looking at the Mid-Atlantic, maybe for a short oval test, maybe if it's not snowing, maybe if it's a mild winter day, you can potentially go to Richmond Raceway to do a test session there. So there are some ovals that you could go out there and test at it. And I don't know if you can do Iowa Speedway during this time of year, since, it snows quite a bit in Iowa during the winter. It's also so freaking cold up there in the Midwest. So there'll be some factors there that they'll have to deal with, but I'm sure they'll find somewhere for him to go. I'm not really concerned about, his speed on the road and the street courses, obviously, since he's done plenty of that during his time in Europe. The only thing that he's really going to have to learn, is the Firestone tire compound. They're obviously much different from the Pirellis that he's driven, and also the Michelins that he was on in the World Endurance Championship. So, just a lot of things that he's going to have to learn over time. But RLL, that they're professionals. I'm sure they're going to make sure he's as ready as he can be once it's time for him to get on the oval tracks, and overall just preparing him to be a full-time IndyCar driver, since this is unlike anything he's ever done before. Instead of just running road and street courses, you're also doing the ovals as well. And we also have that IMS Open test as well later on in the season. So he'll have to go through the rookie orientation program like every other driver has to do, going through, I believe, the 3 phases there. And then once he's cleared, he'll be ready for the first week of practice for the Indianapolis 500. I'm sure that will be quite a culture shock to him, been on the 2.5 mile speedway in Indiana, because that is quite something. I remember Roman Grosjean, first went around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He said he was basically shell shocked, at the sensation of speed you felt around that place, because if you make just one tiny mistake, it could all go wrong in the blink of an eye. And also one thing I wanted to note, Mick also attended, I believe, Carb Day this year at the Indy at the Indy 500, just to get, a taste of what it was like.
Carb Day, he was out giving an eye on. That was when the rumor started, wasn't it? That he might be at Prema, and then that all went a bit wrong, didn't it? And now,
and Prema's future's up in the air still.
And we're a couple of months away from needing to be doing the testing. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, Callum Milot and Robert Schwartzman, they're still under contract, and based on what I've read, that everyone at Prema's IndyCar program is business as normal until you hear otherwise. So as of right now, they're going to be racing, but there's still a lot of concerns within that camp. So we still do not know 100% sure if we're going to see Robert Schwartzman and Callum Milot on the grid at St. Pete, and that's not really a welcoming thing for, I'm sure, all those 2 drivers and all the personnel on the team. But for their sake, I hope Prema is able to be on the grid, and also running another season as an uncharted entry. You're losing a whole bunch of money. So if they're going to be losing money, they're going to need to find the financial backing somewhere to support that, because running full-time as an uncharted team, that's extremely hard.
And does anybody else remember Carling? Just say. Homestead, Miami, said Joe as well. Yeah, that's an option to run there. I mean, it's the warm mist. You're going to get it for a while, aren't you? Going into it, unless someone's going to tell me that it's snowing there. But yesterday, there was a virtual press conference with the RLL introducing Schumacher as the driver of the number 47 Honda, and our own Isha Bajra attended. And we also have clips courtesy of Penske Entertainment. Here's a brief recap from Isha, including comments from Mick and the team owner, of course, of Bobby Rahal.
Hi all, I'm so sorry I can't be there with you guys, but I had the honor and privilege to go to the press conference about Mick Schumacher signing with RLL for the Grid Network. It was an amazing press conference. We talked about Mick's transition from European racing in WEC and in Formula One and bringing it into IndyCar. We also talked about the chance of him racing in IMSA, with the IndyCar schedule not conflicting with IMSA, but he is 100% committed to IndyCar with RLL. He is also scheduled to do many tests on oval, so he will get that experience before the season starts. We also talked about, obviously, his father, Michael Schumacher, and him bringing that same energy into RLL. Also, if he qualifies for the Indy 500, he would be the first German driver in over 100 years, and that's pretty exciting for him, for Mick, and just being in IndyCar in general. All right, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Bye.
Hi, everybody. Obviously, very exciting news. So exciting that we got it out early. So, yeah, no, really, really good. And I think we're all very keen to get the season going. I think there's plenty of work still to be done to get me up to speed. But I believe, and that's why everything's gone so smoothly already at the first test that I'm sure that there will be no problem to get that going as well.
I give tremendous credit to Jay for really making this all happen. It was his energy that we were able to get this all together. My friend Dirk Mueller, who he drove for us as part of our BMW team for a number of years, was instrumental in getting us together with Mick. And we did the test, as everyone knows, and it went very, very well. Everybody was just so impressed with Mick, not just his pace and all that, but his persona, his humility. I mean, just the way he went about his work was really impressive to people within our organization. And, I think that was a big reason why we worked hard to try to put all this together. So I'm really thrilled because I think between, Mick, Graham, and Louis, we've got three strong players, probably the three strongest we've ever had as a three-car team, at least. And so I just, I feel very good about our future together, and we're just really pleased and to welcome Mick into the organization. And I know it's going to be a successful experience for everyone.
To me, the number 47 was obviously a choice at the time to go in Formula One. Mainly, I wanted, a number 4 that wasn't available. I wanted number 7 that wasn't available either. So I kind of combined the two. And then there were so many little kind of funny twists with that number. And as I saw that it was basically available in IndyCar, I was like, okay, I would love to, if possible, get it for the car as well. And it did, so it worked out, and I'm super happy to have it back on the car. And, it just makes things very simple and nice for me to see.
Yeah, wonderful to hear from Mick and Bobby there as well. And I think that connotation of the 4-7, he said it in the press conferences when he was in Formula One. He started off, he just picked it because he wanted the number 4 because it was his number at karting. He wanted the number 7 because that was Michael's number when he came back to Formula One most of the time. And of course, he won 7 world championships. It was a coincidence that Michael had that number for a couple of years at Mercedes. But then he said that he spotted the fans making the connotation, 4-7, for Michael. And Mick liked that. He said, well, if that's what people are saying, that'll be the reason why I choose it going forward. So it's nice to keep that tradition running. But chaps, before we move on, is there any final thoughts you wanted to share before we go on?
Yeah, a few things, Josh. As I think it was quite honorable for RLL to, change up its tradition of, I guess, the 15 number intervals. When you have the 15, the 30, and then the 45, guys, it seemed like, that's just been a Rahal thing, with the 15 number intervals for some reason. And for them to change that for Mick, and allow him to bring the 47, show you how much respect they have for him and the Schumacher family. So I thought that was a nice touch. And some of the other things that he mentioned. He mentioned that he wanted to be 100% committed to IndyCar. Nothing else during this time. I think shows that he's serious. About being in this series and just going out and doing what he needs to do to become the best IndyCar driver possible. I'm sure if he gets a few years into his IndyCar career, feels like he's in a good place. Maybe we could see him, do what some of the other IndyCar drivers do and run the Enduros and IMSA, the Michelin Endurance Cup races. And if it doesn't conflict, maybe we go back to the 24 hours of Le Mans. But I do like his preparation here. And I also think it's a really wild stat that he's going to become, if he makes the race, that he could become the first German driver in over 100 years to start in the Indianapolis 500. That is one of the most impressive stats that I've heard in regards to the Mick Schumacher story here. Yeah, just think about all the great German drivers we have all around the world, and we haven't seen a German driver in this race in over 100 years. That is absolutely insane. And if Mick makes the race, it takes the green in the field of 33 on Memorial Day weekend. That's going to be quite a special sight to see a Schumacher racing on the oval in the greatest spectacle in racing. And we'll also you have to consider the RLL Oval program, which hasn't really been the greatest over the last few years. It seems like the only one who can comfortably make it into the field with that team is Takuma Sato, while the others, are kind of down on speed. I'm sure the last thing Mick wants to do is for his first Indianapolis 500 experience to be in the last row shootout. We're not going to wish that on him, but, given some of the things we've seen in the last few years on bump day, it would not surprise me if he was in the last row shootout, especially, given his lack of experience on ovals. And speaking of Takuma Sato, the one thing I forgot to mention in the last section, Josh, he's talked about, outsiders coming in to help him. Why not have the two-time Indy 500 champion come in and help him out? I'm sure Takuma will be really happy to help Mick come up to speed on ovals, because there's nobody better to ask within your organization than Takuma, who's, been on this one-off deal with RLL for the last several seasons.
Yeah, not much more to add from my side. Great to hear Dirk Muller being involved. He was always a favourite of mine when he was coming through in GT all the years back. Interesting to see if Mick makes the field, and we have to caveat that he might not, but if he does, what the German television population will do, because of course it's up directly against the Grand Prix in 2026 at Montreal. So that'll be interesting. Will they follow the Schumacher name, the F1 fans in Germany, or will they just watch the Grand Prix?
That's going to be such an interesting battle. I can't wait to see what happens there. But yeah, nice. It's a good story. It's a good news story around IndyCar and the Schumacher family as well. So moving on to our second story, Genesis Magma Racing has completed its Hypercar class driver lineup for the 2026 FIA World Endurance Championship season. Now, Genesis is set to debut in the WEC next year, with plans to enter IMSA's GTP class as soon as 2027. Previously, Andre Lotter and Pipo Derani were the first two confirmed Genesis factory drivers due to their experiences with Porsche and Cadillac. Next up, Daniel Juncadella and Matthias Jabert were the third and fourth drivers announced. Juncadella has spent the majority of his career in GT racing and recently started getting some prototype race experience, as Jabert has been a young driver on the rise with plenty of potential. Now, during last week's show, we mentioned that Jimmy Chadwick was named the team's test and reserve driver, and the final two full-time Genesis factory drivers are, of course, coming in with Matthias Chamier and Paul-Louis Chatin, and join Genesis after being with Porsche and Alpine. Now, Chamier said that he wanted to have a fresh start after being with Porsche for years, and looks forward to the challenge ahead of leading a new manufacturer and team. And Chatin said that while Genesis is still a young brand, and 2 years with Alpine and winning at Fuji, he feels more than ready to take on this new challenge. Team principal Still the People added that the combination of drivers they've signed far exceeded the team's expectations they had when this project got underway. He also said that this group of race winners and champions has placed a huge mark of trust in their young team. The photo courtesy of Genesis Magma Racing. I feel like I'm going to repeat myself by saying it, but Kobe, starting with you, are you impressed with the inaugural Genesis Hypercar class driver lineup? It's a strong bunch.
Yeah, yes, it really is. Sometimes with a new project, you don't really see some of the top name drivers in sports car racing want to take that on, and Genesis is still a young brand, like Paul-Louis Chaton said, that is still relatively new, compared to, I guess, its parent brand Hyundai. So Genesis, so they're trying to get the Genesis brand more recognized and out there, which is why they decided to use this brand for this project. And I think Genesis deserves a lot of credit for the different types of drivers they were able to get. Andre Lauderer, know what he was able to do during his LMP1 days with Audi, and most recently with Porsche. he's certainly quite a good, seasoned veteran to have lead that program. And Pippo Durrani, he was, really, really fast over here in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. He was with Action Express Racing for a long time, and he earned the nickname Pippo Dynamo Durrani because he was extremely quick. And Danny Hunkadea, he's been, a really good GT driver for so many years, and it's nice to see him stepping up to the top category and getting an opportunity. And Gilbert, I've heard his name mentioned a lot, in sports car racing over in Europe, and also I think he's been in IMSA as well a few times. So he's no stranger to the sports car racing scene, and is looking like he could be a star in the future. I think Matthew Jaminet, he's had a very successful career in Porsche. And to see him, decide that he wants to try something new, I think it'll be a good challenge for him. And he's obviously extremely fast. It was last year's IMSA GTP champion with Porsche Penske Motorsport. So I think that he'll be an asset to that team. And also Paul-Luc Chaton as well. I know his name from being really successful in LMP2 over the years, and just coming off a stint with Alpine in the top in the hypercar class. So he's a great driver. And Jamie Chadwick, I'm really excited to see where her future goes in this class, as a test and reserve driver. Yeah, so if for whatever reason any of those 6 drivers cannot race, Jamie Chadwick will step right into the seat. And I think it'll be great to have a female driver competing, in the top category, whether it's the hypercar class in the World Endurance Championship or IMSA's GTP class. And as you mentioned, Josh, Genesis could enter IMSA as soon as 2027. And one of the teams been rumored to potentially take over that program is Brian Hurd Autosport. They've run the Hyundai TCR cars in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge in the last few years. And Brian Hurd Autosport, they're teaming up with PR1 Matheson Motorsports next year in IMSA, to get some prototype experience. And a lot of people believe that's a precursor, to running the Genesis and IMSA in 2027. And if the manufacturer comes to IMSA in 2027, I hope Jamie Chadwick will be a part of that driver lineup in IMSA. She already has, experience racing in the United States. Run a couple of years she spent over here running in Indy Next. And I think, that the U.S. market, and the U.S. fan base would be really excited to see someone like Jamie Chadwick running in the GTP class.
It's a great mix, isn't it, of the experienced heads and the young upstarts in this lineup. Lotter has been around for forever, as you mentioned, Kobe. He was with Audi at the sort of the end of their glory run, and previously to that, he was kicking everyone's butts in Japan in Super Formula and Super GT. I remember watching Pippo Durrani and Danny Incadea probably raced against each other from time to time in Formula 3 at the back end of the noughties in the European Championship, and Durrani was here in the UK. So those guys have got plenty of experience. It's good to see Incadea finally getting a full prototype run. He's been knocking on the door for a long time in the GT categories, as we both mentioned. Jaminet's kind of in the middle. We talked about the last couple of weeks, really, and we're going to talk about it more in a minute, about Porsche shuffling their deck, and he was one of the cars that got spat out because he had nowhere to go, but he's found himself a plum ride here. And then you've got the young guys of Jobert and Chadwick on, as the reserve. But both of them have been fantastic this season in the EDEC Sport team, which has been kind of running in conjunction with the Genesis team in the European Le Mans Series, and almost won the championship. Those two and Incadea as the threesome. So, great mix of youth and experience. And as you mentioned, Kobe, we don't want anyone to miss races, get injured or be ill, but it would be nice for Jamie Chadwick to suddenly pop up somewhere in place of somebody during the season and find herself in a great ride, or, as you perhaps alluded to there, coming to IMSA in 27 as part of a lineup, if that is the plan. So she's ready to jump in, I'm sure, as soon as she gets her chance, which will be great to have another top line female in the WEC and in the top category. Of course, we've had the Iron Dames for such a long time, and others like Lila Wadu and other people, but they've all been kind of not in the top category. So it'd be great to have a female representation in the top category of either the WEC or IMSA's GTP category when that comes around in 27.
Keeping my fingers crossed for that one coming into it. And as you mentioned, Porsche Penske Motorsport also, and I was wondering what you were doing there. Show me out that one.
I've got camera, sorry. There's a cross finger.
That took me out completely.
Family show.
PG. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Porsche Penske Motorsport also announced a revised GTP driver lineup for the 2026 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season. Now, in the 2025 GTP Championship winning number 6 Porsche, we'll see a brand new driver lineup with Lawrence Vanthof and Kevin Estre coming over from the now obsolete World Endurance Championship Hypercar program to run the full season. Matt Campbell will complete the lineup for the Michelin Endurance Cup races after winning the GTP title with Genesis bound Matthias Jamier as well. Now, Felipe Nasr is returning to the number 7 Porsche, and he will have a new co-driver as Nick Tandy returns to GT racing. More on Tandy's new job later on in the show. So Julian Amla will be Nasr's new co-driver for the full season. And Lauren Heinrich will receive a promotion from the GTD Pro as he joins Nasr and Amla for the Enduros, courtesy of Porsche Motorsport. Just keeping an eye on that. Matt's got the fingers out of sight. Yes, he does. Do you like the changes to Porsche's factory GTP program?
We talked about it a couple of weeks ago when the WEC deal was ended. Where would all these drivers that Porsche have on their roster go? And the deck has been shuffled, and how we've got it. What a start they had to last year, and the end of the year before, of course, with winning the championships. Last year was brilliant with Nasr and Tandy, and of course Campbell and Jaminet won at Laguna Seca earlier in the season. It was all Porsche all the time at the beginning of last year. It kind of tailed off through the season, but they had a great strong start, and it's going to be weird not to see Nick Tandy as part of this program. He's been there for a long time with this programming, all of the WEC and of course IMSA especially. Lawrence Vanthof has very much got a soft spot for the American Championship, and he's been a champion there in previous times. So him and Kevin Estre have known each other for a long time and have raced together a lot. So it was, made sense to keep them together, which is what they've done. I'm a fan of Tandy and I'm a fan of Campbell. It's a shame that they're not going to be part of this as a full-time running. But Lauren Heinrich certainly deserves his shot with the Hypercar GTP class, as he's been kind of on the fringes for a long time and was very impressive in the WEC rookie test at Bahrain a couple of weeks ago after the season finale, which has kind of rubber stamped him getting this seat in the IMSA program for next season.
Yeah, man. I don't really have too much more to add, but yeah, I'm really excited to see Lawrence Vanthof return to IMSA full time. And it's been a few years since we've seen him, and Kevin Estre. It's been a while since we've seen him, back in IMSA on a more regular basis. So we're looking forward to seeing their chemistry continue from the World Endurance Championship over to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So hopefully things will go well for them there. And also have Matt Campbell. Interesting that he's taken a step back to only do the enduros. And I wonder what his future is going to hold. I guess since he'll be running the enduros, he'll have opportunities to do other things, across motorsports with Porsche. And Felipe Nasr, glad that he's going to be returning to the program as well. I know there have been rumors that he could potentially be going to the McLaren Hypercar program, once that comes around. So maybe, it could be one final year for Felipe Nasr here at Porsche Penske Motorsport, but who really knows? And I think it's going to be cool to see Julian Andlauer, step up full time with Felipe Nasr, see what they can do in that number 7 Porsche. And Lauren Heinrich, I know he was able to get some time in the World Endurance Championship Porsche Hypercar recently, and get some experience. And I think he was also really fast on a test session as well. So he's also going to get the promotion. And I just think that this is great all around for Porsche. Nick Tandy returning to his roots in GT racing. As Josh said, I'll have more on Nick Tandy's feature during my segment of all these motorsports news stories, and also something else for us to pay attention to during the IMSA offseason test that they just had at Daytona. Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin participated in the test, and those could be drivers who could be joining those number 6 and number 7 Porsches. In the Rolex 24 towards the end of January, where they could potentially, you could see Scott McLaughlin in one Porsche and Joseph Newgarden in the other. So maybe Porsche is not done announcing his driver lineups yet, because there could be a fourth seat available in both cars for the Rolex 24.
Yeah, and of course, we are going to be witnessing a couple of changes coming up in the next few weeks and months anyway, as everything gets settled down and more. Nick Tandy's news is going to be said later on in the show in his program. Now, moving on to some hot topic news. This really is hot topic. It came through at my email around about 35 minutes before the press release was going to go public. And this was quite the shock. The Aston Martin Racing F1 team has announced some changes to its leadership structure before the 2026 Formula One season. Andy Carroll will move from the team principal to chief strategy officer, while renowned engineer Adrian Newey will step into the role of team principal and guide the technical team, including the trackside operations of the car. Now, both Carroll and Newey have agreed to divide their responsibilities to focus on their individual strengths and expertise. Now, Newey will become Aston Martin's fourth team principal in the last 4 years, as he succeeds Otmar Safnauer, Mike Crack, and Carroll. Now, in a statement, Newey said he's looking forward to taking on this additional role and helping put the team in the best possible position to compete in the first year of the new regulations. The photo courtesy of Aston Martin. Well, off the top of my head, boys, I would say that this is going on along the lines of Ross Brawn. It goes along the lines of Colin Chapman. So, Kobe, starting with you, do you have confidence in Adrian Newey balancing his car design responsibilities alongside leading an entire F1 team?
Yeah, this was quite a story that come out today. Not one I saw coming on. I think like over the weekend. Actually on the Grid Live wrap up show, Joe and I were talking about some rumors that were coming out of F1 media. I know Andrew Benson from BBC Sport said one of the leading contenders to become the new team principal Aston Martin would be Christian Horner. So we assumed that it was going to be Christian Horner. We didn't think it was going to be someone like Adrian Newey, because his name, it didn't even come up. So this was definitely came straight out of left field. But I certainly think it could be an interesting decision here. I know a lot of people have been excited to see what Adrian Newey can do, at Aston Martin, since he'll be, since he was obviously going to be designing the car and all of that, to try to, replicate what he's been able to do at Red Bull over the years and give them a potential world championship winning car, or at least a car capable of, being one of Formula One's big three teams. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Adrian Newey balances, balance everything that he's going to have on his plate coming up. But I think it's going to be fun to see what Adrian can do in a leadership role. Hopefully it won't take away from what he's doing, in the engineering department and car design and all of that. Look what he did at Red Bull all the years. The resume just speaks for itself, but now this is new territory for him. See if he can try to, not only lead Aston Martin towards the front of the F1 grid, from the design point of view, but also leadership as well, because there's a lot more that goes into, just designing a car, capable of going fast and being competitive. He's gonna have to manage this and manage that and something over there and off to the left as well. And he's gonna have to, really step up his game to make sure that this is gonna work out. But given Adrian Newey's, history and all of that, it would not surprise me if he ends up being a very good team principal for Aston Martin. And as you mentioned, Josh, he'll be the 14th principal in the last 4 years, and that really signals a lot of instability from the team. Aston Martin's had as just many team principals as the Carolina Panthers and Cleveland Browns have had like head coaches with them. Aston Martin can get that figured out so they don't have to keep changing team principals year after year. But real excited for this opportunity that Adrian's going to have in front of him.
Ready for the line? We've said it a few times in the last few weeks on this show.
We disagree.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. Yes. I think this is a left field choice. I don't think Christian Horner was either the right man for this either, to be honest. You've got the current GOAT of all Formula One design, everything over the last 25, 30 years plus. Williams, McLaren, and of course Red Bull. And now you're piling him on with the team principal role. I don't quite understand this in a winter full of change, where the pecking order, of which Aston Martin have been fairly over the last however long, in the back half of it, the pecking order is going to be shuffled here, and you want your best man designing your car the best it can be, not sat on the pit wall deciding if strategy A is better than strategy B. Do you know what I mean? I don't think this is quite right. Smacks of a bit of desperation a little bit. Smacks of a bit of I don't know what to do, let's give it to him. They need a bit of stability. They've had it with the stability with the drivers, of course, for the last little while. And Lance Stroll's not going anywhere, is he? And Fernando will keep going until he's, having to be removed from his Zimmer frame to be put in the car. But in the TP role, as you say, 4 people in 4 years is not a great look for a team that has really never made massive steps forward in this current, and there's only 2 more weeks left of it, of course, technical cycle. So, as you say, this one came from left field, and I'm not sure it's going to work. And I hope things like this, they shouldn't, and let's hope that they don't taint any of Adrian Newey's enormous legacy to the sport of Formula One.
I agree. It came out completely of left field, and it's a big responsibility to take, because now he is team principal. He's going to have to do so much more work than he's ever done before. And I'm surprised he's taken it on, because he's never expressed an interest in that role. He's expressed interest in having ownerships. Like he wanted to buy in with Frank Williams, wasn't allowed. He did buy in with Red Bull. Then he fell out with Christian after everything that happened, went over to Aston. And this just doesn't seem like it's a logical progress. But I can understand it in one respect, that he wants to have complete control of the team trackside, because now no one's going to override him. And you just have got this feeling that Aston were looking at Christian and Adrian went, look, it's me or him. Make the decision. That's what I got from it.
Yeah,
because
if you sign him, then you might lose me, kind of
yeah,
thing.
I'm gone straight away.
They've patched up things up, those two, but maybe not.
Well, it's easy to patch things up when you're outside of it. Look at Lewis and Mika. They said, oh, it's all fine. But put them back in the working atmosphere. How long until it becomes toxic again? And Christian Horner will come back to Formula One. I was having this discussion the other day. I said, if I was starting a Formula One team right now, annoyingly, I would have Christian Horner as my team principal, because I'd want a team principal who knows how to win, and he does know how to win. He knows how to have an organisation around him that can win. It's an annoying factor, because I don't want him, but you can't deny the experience that he's got there. It's sort of a catch-22 situation, which is why I firmly believe he's off to Alpine. I can see that happening. Flavio will welcome him with open arms and cigars and cognacs, and he's going to be right there. Yeah, he's going to be right there. He will. Guarantee we'll have that before the start of the 2026 season that Christian's joining Alpine. Still, from one thing that could cause a massive amount of trouble to another thing that has been causing a massive amount of trouble. So another story that we've been following closely throughout the month of December is the antitrust trial. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports versus NASCAR. The trial begins this coming Monday on December the 1st with the jury selection, and then we'll go on from there. Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, Curtis Pollock, and Bob Jenkins are suing NASCAR for unfair practices in the new charter agreement that the team signed last year. In the last few weeks, there have been rumours about a possible settlement, but no deal has been reached by either side at this time. Now, given what's come out recently, it makes you wonder if a settlement should be a priority, since several released emails and text messages have shown the ugly side of business. The photo taken by Jared C. Tilton from Getty Images. Now, in an email from NASCAR Commissioner Steve Phelps, he made some rude comments towards team owner Richard Childress. Now, Phelps said that Childress needs to be taken out, back, and flogged, calling him this is in the inverted commas, a stupid redneck who owns his entire fortune to NASCAR. Phelps also called Childress stupid, an idiot, a dinosaur, a malcontent, and something else. Unfortunately, we cannot repeat on the air despite being past watershed in the UK. As Matt said earlier, this is a family show. Now, according to several reporters, Phelps reached out to Childress personally before these emails were released to the public to give him a heads up. Here's the statement that Childress released to the media, courtesy of Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic. So, RCR and Richard Childress are deeply disappointed by the insensitive and defamatory statements made about Mr. Childress in recently surfaced text messages between NASCAR and the executive Steve Phelps and Brian Herbst. Now, these comments reflect the way certain NASCAR executives have historically viewed and treated many team owners like Mr. Childress, who have devoted their lives to strengthening the sport for its fans, its sponsors, and all who compete in it. Now, RCR and Richard Childress are equally disappointed with the NASCAR fans, with whom Mr. Childress closely identifies given his humble and hard-working background. Mr. Childress and the organisation will issue no further statements regarding these or any other defamatory text messages that have recently surfaced, as legal action is being contemplated and discussed with legal counsel. What a load of messy mess. Hitting the fan, I think, Matt, doesn't do this justice. It is absolutely beside itself. So, given the ugly information that has come to light so far, and more on the way during the trial, is it the best interest of both sides to come to a settlement by next Monday before this gets even worse for both of them?
Yeah, certainly more to come, you would imagine, over the next couple of weeks in the run up to Christmas once the trial kicks off. Note to all viewers, don't put things in text messages and emails if you don't want them to be dug up in the future and or on social media. If you want to say something to somebody, just walk up to them and say it to their face, because you will be found out, and if you say silly things like has been said here, you are going to end up with scrambled, boiled, or whatever egg on your face. I mean, the outward look of NASCAR at the moment is not brilliant. We've got and thankfully, thank goodness, it has down over the last couple of weeks. Hi, Ben. The whole playoff 36 race points, how to crown a champion scenario, all that going on, which of course outwardly you would go, well, they're all arguing about that. And also, by the way, there's a couple of teams are suing. This is like Manchester United suing the Premier League, or or the Brazilian national team suing FIFA. Praise. Just ugly. And this is, as Kobe said before we went on the air, probably my favourite subject, because I really don't feel like this needs to be in the media and sphere, but it is. And obviously it could get worse and could change the face of NASCAR as we know it over the next couple of months before we get back racing again at Daytona for the start of the season. So, yeah, not great. Not much more to add, really. It's not good. It's not clever, and less of it, please, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to Motorsport's version of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. We'll be following this trial just as closely. Okay, let's move it on then. We've got no grid EPI update this week, so we're going to send it straight back to Kobe for some more stories around the motorsport world. Kobe, you've got a big one tonight. Good luck, because it's been busy.
Thanks, Josh. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. Starting in 2028, the Gen 3 cars will be available in the Dunlop Super 2 series. Gen 3 was introduced to supercars in 2023, so it'll debut in Super 2 5 seasons later. The series is developing some changes and rules to help control costs and allow independent teams to be as competitive as possible. According to Chief Motorsport Officer Tim Edwards, the decision to bring Gen 3 to Super 2 in 2028 was made in the best interest of the category and to ensure that numbers are as high as possible. He added that with the number of drivers stepping up to the main game next year, Super 2 is the best category to develop the next generation of supercars drivers, photo courtesy of Supercars. And although he wasn't able to secure a full-time seat in the for season 12, Sam Bird will remain involved in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Following McLaren's exit from Formula E, Bird was able to sign with the Nissan Formula E team as their new reserve and development driver. Bird brings a lot of experience to Nissan with 144 E-Prix starts under his belt, including 12 wins and 27 podiums. His knowledge of using the Nissan powertrain in the last 2 seasons at McLaren will also be beneficial as he helps develop the new Gen 4 car. Bird said he'll be able to jump straight into the simulator and give feedback instantly to support the team's efforts trackside this season. Graphic courtesy of Nissan. After spending the 2025 season in the NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts Series with Colleague Racing, Christian Eckes will return to the Craftsman Truck Series in 2026. However, Eckes won't be a part of Colleague's new Truck Series program with Ram, but he'll be back with McAnally Hilgeman Racing. He'll drive the number 91 Chevrolet Silverado with sponsorship from Columbia Bank, Old World Industries, Napa Night Vision, Napa Brake Gold Calipers, and Napa Auto Care. Dave Ellens will serve as his crew chief as Eckes returns to the team he went to the championship for with in 2024. Team owner Bill McAnally said they're excited to have Eckes back because his fingerprints are all over their Truck Series program and believe they have some unfinished business. Graphic courtesy of McAnally Hilgeman Racing. Dick Johnson Racing signed Brody Kostecki to a long-term contract extension to keep him with the Shelby Power Racing team for the foreseeable future. Kostecki is set to stay with the team through the end of the 2030 Repco Supercars Championship season. The team believes that his technical understanding and mechanical aptitude have made him a valuable asset to their engineering department. And his first year with DJR, Kostecki has 2 victories at Townsville and the Bend, including a 3rd consecutive pole in the Baffler's 1000 with hopes of accomplishing more in the years to come. Kostecki said signing a long-term contract extension was an easy decision because he can see where the team is headed with the right people, right infrastructure, and now the right timeline to build something special. Photo courtesy of Dick Johnson Racing. And after 2 full seasons in F1 Academy, Williams Racing confirmed the departure of Leah Block from its driver academy. And during her 2 seasons, in F1 Academy, Leah Block just finished inside the top 10 in points, and she got her first career F1 Academy victory earlier this year on the streets of Singapore. And in an exclusive interview with Dirtfish, Leah Block told them, that after 2 years of being in F1 Academy, she's coming home to what she knew before she got into this, which is rally racing. Yeah, so she said that she decided to take a break from rally and off-road stuff to try, see what it's like in the open wheel world. And although she was able to, have a good time, and learn a lot during her 2 years in open wheel racing, she ultimately felt like that's not the world that she belongs in. And so she feels like that rally has always been home where she's had the most success and most fun. So she figured, since, she wouldn't be allowed to come back to F1 Academy next season, since her 2 seasons are up, she feels like that, after trying something new, it's time to go back to what she knows, and that's rally racing. And her ultimate goal is to become a driver in the World Rally Championship in the future. So definitely going to be paying attention to Leah Block in the next few years to see if she can get on the road to WRC. Graphic courtesy of Williams Racing. Sigma Performance Services Racing acquired NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts Series team AM Racing before the 2026 season, and with several teams leaving Ford, after this season, Sigma Performance Services Racing, they're going to become basically the new satellite operation for Ford in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And right now, they plan to field entries in O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, formerly known as the Xfinity Series. They also plan to be in the ARCA Menard Series as well and run an expanded late model program designed to accelerate driver development and engineering across the board. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see how this team gets along as the new Ford factory team, as Haas factory team that moved on to Chevrolet, and so has RSS Racing as well. So they're really going to be the only Ford team as of right now in the series at the moment. And the owner of Sigma Performance Services Racing said that bringing AM Racing into the SPS Racing family is all about building momentum and unlocking our next potential. And he said with Ford Racing behind them, they're investing in people, data, and performance to set them up to contend right away in 2026. That was owner Joe Fair from Sigma Performance Services, and graphic also courtesy of that team. 17-year-old Brent Cruz will move up to the NASCAR Rally Parts Series next season. And when you look at Brent Cruz's schedule, at only 17 years old, he's going to run 29 of the 33 races in the series next year. He's going to drive the number 19 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, and Cruz is going to make his O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut at Circuit of the Americas early in the season, and he'll be able to do that as a 17-year-old because, as we talked about several weeks on the show, NASCAR updated its eligibility rules where you can run on road courses and tracks under 1.25 miles or shorter. You can be 17 and running those races, so he'll be able to run the road course. But after Brent's 18th birthday on March 30th, he'll be full-time the rest of the season in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And we've seen, Brent Cruz come through the ranks over the years. He certainly comes out of the Connor Zilisch pipeline as these young drivers who is really accomplishing a lot, like in Trans Am TA2 series, the Arca Menard series, some other, racing series as well. Brent Cruz, there's a lot of hype surrounding him and what he can do in the future in NASCAR. And he said that he's grateful for the opportunity to race for a winning organization in Joe Gibbs Racing. He feel like he's learned a lot, in the JGR ARCA program, and he's ready to transition into the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series in 2026. Graphic courtesy of Joe Gibbs Racing. Prema signed Mari Boya for the 2026 Formula 2 season. And Boya, he's receiving a promotion from Formula 3. Where he ended the season in third, ended up getting a win and had multiple podium finishes as well. And just a couple of weeks ago, Mari Boya was in contention to win the Macau Grand Prix, but, just coming up a spot short of winning that. And at the end of the season, Boyer is going to participate in the postseason test in Abu Dhabi with Prema. And in a statement, he said that he's super excited about joining Prema for his rookie season in Formula 2, and working with this highly successful team. And he said he's particularly excited to have longer races than he did in F3, which he really likes, and also getting, experience with pit stops and tire deg as well. And he's looking forward to having a great first season in Formula 2. Photo courtesy of Prema. In Trackhouse Racing, they unveiled Red Bull's 2026 paint schemes for Connor Zilisch and Shane Van Gisbergen in the NASCAR Cup Series. And also, Red Bull is going to become the official energy drink of Trackhouse Racing as well, to expand their partnership with Trackhouse. And the first time we're going to see Red Bull is in the Daytona 500. It's going to be in a number 88 Chevrolet for Connor Zilisch, and then the following week at Echo Park Speedway is going to be on Shane Van Gisbergen's, renumbered number 97 Chevrolet, and Red Bull is going to be on there for 25 races, among both drivers throughout the 2026 season. And SVG going back to number 97, he said that it means a lot to have that number on his cars, since it means so much to his family. And then when he was able to see it for the first time with his Red Bull livery, he said that he loved the red flash designs on both sides of the car and think it's gonna look epic on the track. And Connor Zilisch as well, said that he really liked his new number 88 Chevrolet as well in those Red Bull colors. Photo courtesy of the Red Bull content pool. Triarsi Competizione will expand to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championships GTD Pro Class for the Michelin Endurance Cup races. And Triarsi, they have quite a stacked driver lineup for the Rolex 24, as they're going to be in a number 033 Ferrari 296 GT3, and going to be factory drivers leading that effort, and James Collado, Miguel Molina, Alessio Rivera, and also as a fourth driver, we're going to see the European Le Mans Series champion, Riccardo Agostini, to complete that driver lineup. And then the team principal of the organization, Onofrio Triarsi, said that this is a moment that I've been building towards, and they couldn't have asked for a stronger launch in the GTD Pro, and said Ferrari's incredible support has made this possible and been able to put together a lineup like this for their first GTD Pro class entry. He said he believed they have every right that they can fight for the win, from the very first lap in the Rolex 24 in the GTD Pro class. graphic courtesy of Jurassic Competizione. And now a fun story here. Williams Racing F1 team principal James Vowles is going to be competing in the Gulf 12 Hours in Abu Dhabi. I believe that race is going to be next month. He's going to be driving for Garage 59, going to be joining a really great driver lineup there in the Garage 59 McLaren GT3 with Alexander West, Mark Sanson, and Marco Pulsini. And James Vowles, he said he's looking forward to being able to put the race helmet back on again, and said that Garage 59 is a team he knows well from their time together in 2022, and the Gulf 12 Hours is a fantastic event with a competitive grid, and he calls it a pleasure to share the car with Alex, Mark, and Marco, to experience racing from the driver's seat again. As we know, his day job is in F1, leading the Williams F1 team, and now once the season is over, he gets to put back on the driver's helmet again and go out there and have some fun, photo courtesy of Garage 59. And we talked about Nick Tandy earlier in the show, and this is exactly where Nick Tandy is going to be next year, because AO Racing announced its brand new driver lineup in the number 77 Rexy Porsche. And with Lauren Heinrich and Klaus Bachler, moving on, Nick Tandy, he's returning to his roots in GT racing, and he's going to be in the Rexy Porsche, and alongside him for the full season is going to be Harry King, and then for the Endurance Cup races, going to have Alessio Picariello, completing that driver lineup. And then team principal Gunnar Jeanette said that he's really excited to see Tandy, King, and Picariello, driving the Rexy Porsche next year. And he said that this driver lineup is the perfect combination of speed and experience to allow them to fight for the GTD Pro Driver Championship, and that graphic courtesy of AO Racing. And now, we have some sad news to share that was announced over the weekend. And that news is Supercars Hall of Famer Alan Moffat passed away a few days ago at age 86. And looking at the career of the legendary Alan Moffat, he was a 4-time Australian touring car champion. He was also a 4-time winner, at Bathurst as well. And he was inducted into the Supercars Hall of Fame back in 1999, in the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame in 2016, and in 2018, he was also inducted into the Sport Australia Hall of Fame. So, Alan Moffat, he wasn't just recognized, as just a, legend of supercars in the Australian racing scene. He was recognized as a legend of, in motorsport in general, and also just a sports world, as well as, a great athlete during his time. And during this weekend's Adelaide Grand Final, Supercars plans to honor the life and legacy of the great Alan Moffat. And then the Supercars chief executive James Warburton said, on behalf of the entire Supercars community, in a statement, he said, we want to express our deepest condolences to the passing of Alan Moffat, one of the true giants of Australian motorsport. He called Alan a pioneer, a champion, and an icon whose impact on our sport is impossible to measure. His record speaks for itself: 4 Australian Tour Car Championships, 4 Bathurst victories, 6 Sandown wins, and more than 3 decades of extraordinary achievement across Australia and around the world. And said he was a dominant force during one of his most competitive eras of touring car racing, and also mentioned with King of the Mountain and Peter Broad, which defined the generation. And then he said, but Alan's legacy reaches far beyond the racetrack. He brought a new level of professionalism to the sport, and transforming the role of sponsorship and team management in ways that shaped the modern era of supercars, and said that his influence in the paddock can still be felt to this very day. And on behalf of everyone here at Grid Network, sending our thoughts, prayers, well wishes to Alan Moffat's family, during this really difficult time, especially his son James Moffat, who's a co-driver in the Repco Supercars champ as well. And we hope Alan's memory is a blessing. And that's all of the stories we have for this week. So now I'm going to turn it over to Matt for Pick a Winner.
Thank you, Kirby. What a shame for Alan Moffat, who's been struggling with his health for quite some time. And that was a real sad bit of news to come out over the weekend, that he has left us. I know SiriusXM in this couple of weeks have been doing their Mount Rushmore of NASCAR. If you're doing the Mount Rushmore of the Australian Touring Cars / Supercars Championship and you haven't got Alan Moffat on your Mount Rushmore, you're doing it wrong. Pick a Winner returns this week for us here at Grid Network, and you can get involved with hashtag pick a winner. It is down to the final two, as you can see by the caption on the left-hand side. I'm out. I'm bye-bye. I've gone. So I can't win. It's down to Kobe and Matt now to decide. The two pick a winner goats over the last couple of years, fighting it out for this season's crown. Still plenty of points left on the table, and a good chunk of them are happening this weekend, and we will start our picks and choices with the final round of the 2025 World Rally Championship, a brand new event in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this weekend. Freeway fight between the Toyotas, Elvin Evans, Sebastian Ogier, and a slightly outsider but still involved in the championship fight, Kalle Rovanperä, in his final event as a rally driver. He could go out with a bang. What a mic drop moment that would be if he can take the championship and stride off to Super Formula and then on to Formula 2. So it is time to pick a winner and pick a champion. Hyundai are yet to get on the board this season. Another man that's going is Oyk Tanak. I think he's going to win the rally at the weekend in his final event for Hyundai. And hopefully, more fingers crossed stuff going on here. Elvin can bring it home for Wales. Tanak, my rally winner. Evans, my champion. Kobe?
I'm actually going to do the same rally driver for both Rally Saudi Arabia, the inaugural event here, and also the championship. And I'm going to go with the driver who was supposed to be part-time for another season. I think it's going to be really crazy if he ends up pulling this off, and probably going to see some changes to the grid ranking if this happens for future reference. I think Sebastian Ogier is going to go out and win Rally Saudi Arabia and also win the championship despite missing a few rallies, because he's supposed to be a part-timer. And looking at Ogier's record the last few races, he's won the last 3 out of 5 rallies. So I think he could end the season with another rally win and end up hosting the championship at the end of the year. Who you got, Josh?
Yeah, I agree with you, because the one good thing about coming to a brand new rally is that no one's got any experience on it, and who better to throw in than Sebastian Ogier, who can adapt to anything super duper quickly. So I was thinking on the same lines as you, 3 out of 5 the last ones, and I think he could easily take home both the victory and another championship as well. I know you want Kalle Rovanperä before he goes off to Super Formula and then inevitably F2, but see how that goes. It is his last one as a rally driver, of course. So I'm sticking there with Sebastian Ogier for both.
Talking of goats, Sebastian Ogier could put himself absolutely firmly in goat category if he wins the championship at the weekend. Starts on Friday, of course. It does Rally Saudi Arabia, so get your hashtag pick a winner, pick in before the beginning of the event to make yourself eligible for a point. Also on Friday, because it is a triple shot of supercars races this weekend for the Adelaide BP Grand Finale. We had talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we did the preview for it post the Sandown 500. We have a race on Friday this weekend. For the first time at Adelaide, it's gone to a free race format across 3 days, with the little 100-kilometre race on Friday night in the sunset or in the twilight hours of the Friday afternoon. 4 for the championship: Feeney, Brown, Mostert and Kai Allen. I'm going to continue with my pick from a couple of weeks ago when we did the little preview and say that Chaz Mostert is going to win the championship. I think Will Brown wins on Friday to keep himself in the hunt. He's got some points hunting to do to keep himself in there to retain his championship. Brown for the Friday race win, and I'm going to stick my neck on the chopping block and go with Chazzy Mostert as the champion.
I'm going to stick with the same driver again here. I think my early championship pick, I'm going to go with Brock Feeney holding it down. And then for race 1, race 2, I'm going to go with Brock to win those. I'm going to wait to see what happens in race 3. But as all of our viewers know, you can submit your initial picks. But if you see qualifying, see something you don't like, you can change your pick. I'm sure I'm probably going to have to change my picks. But for now, I'm going to lock in Brock Feeney for the moment.
I'm going with Feeney as our champion. There's the Feeney call. But I was thinking along the lines as well. I don't know for the races. It's hard to tell, isn't it, who could be dominant. I'm going to have to hold back and decide after qualifying who's looking strong. But who have we got running in from NASCAR again this weekend in the team?
Cedric.
I can't remember. So, yeah, Austin Cedric, yeah. That'd be quite nice to see how he gets on. But I'm going to hold back on my pick winner for the races itself, and until after we get to qualifying tomorrow evening.
Yeah, don't forget about that, NASCAR fans. Austin Cindric in the supercars races and Jesse Love in Super 2 in Adelaide this weekend. 3 races, of course, as we mentioned, across the weekend. Get your picks in before the races are done. And also, of course, this weekend, it's coming down to crunch time. More about it, I'm sure, in Hots and Knots in a moment. But Formula One is back this weekend. They have hot-footed and long-footed, in a stupid scheduling piece of work, from Las Vegas to Qatar. And it is the final sprint race of the season on Saturday afternoon, evening their time, morning in the US. McLaren won the sprint race last year with the old switcheroo out of the last corner. They won't be doing that this weekend, will they? I think the march continues, at least on Saturday. Max Verstappen, my sprint winner on the weekend. Kobe?
Yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines as you, Matt. Max Verstappen is going to win the sprint race. We'll see how qualifying goes, and then obviously the season finale race weekend in Abu Dhabi. And like you said, I know you guys are going to talk more about this probably in Hots or Knots, but it really seems like it just sounds crazy. But I would not be surprised if Max Verstappen finds a way to win out here and ends up stealing this championship from McLaren, and then we'll let everything explode and happen and fall into place from there. But yeah, I'm going Max Verstappen to win the sprint, and we'll see if he can do the impossible and steal this championship at the end of the year.
Oscar for the sprint, Max for the Grand Prix. Lando not on the podium either. There you go. Going to Abu Dhabi, 3 showing down as a Hunt. That's my pick.
Someone on social media, and I can't remember who it was, worked it out that there is a way that they all 3, of course there is, all 3 of them can go to Abu Dhabi as a tie, and it could be a winner-take-all next weekend. That would be something, wouldn't it? Get your picks in for all of those, and of course the main Grand Prix, using the hashtag Pick a Winner on all of the social media channels available to you, and in the chat here, and in the chat in the weekend show as well, perhaps. Adam's got his picks in. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Oit Tanak is going to be his rally winner, and Elvin Evans is champion, as with me, and he's going with Kobe, with Brock Feeney as his Friday Supercars race winner, and he's going with Brock to win the championship as well, and Max Verstappen to win the sprint. Thank you. So there is Adam's picks. He's also said Alan Moffat was a legend in Australia, incredible broadcaster as well. Certainly was in his later life, when he was behind the microphone. Those Red Bull cars look very sweet and fabulous, talking about the SVG. And Connor Zilic, NASCAR mobiles for next season. And he also says wants to wish everyone at the Grid Network a very blessed Thanksgiving. Thankful for the friendship, as we are too. Right then, Josh is back with me for Hots and Knots to round the show out. I've got a couple, but I'll let you go first.
Hot. Sphere looked nice, didn't it?
Wasn't a great race, was it?
Quali 1 was good. Wet tyres getting used. That's definitely a hot. Yeah, there are weekends in commentating where I go, that was awful. This was bad. 2 hours sleep. And it really messed up the whole weekend. Really not great. It was such a waste of time. Vegas usually is really good. And it wasn't actually the track's fault that let it down this year, because the overtakes we got were tremendous.
Yeah.
What let it down was the tyres, wasn't it? Again, if as soon as it gets cold, and we're going to be talking about Pirelli next week as well, with this stupid 25 lap limit we've got coming up. But Pirelli can't seem to make a tyre that works in the cold, and they can't seem to make a tyre that lasts to be durable against hard abrasions.
Or a wet tyre that works in the rain. Properly.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, why are Pirelli still in charge of, why did they get the contract again? Why haven't we gone back? Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. Should have gone, Bridgestone were interested, Michelin were interested as well. It's like, come on, give it, because Pirelli tyres are getting more ridiculous. But
if the Indy debacle never happened, Michelin would still be there now.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, how many? More knots. And I know the hot you're going for, so I'm going to go for a different knot. You ready?
Okay, I'll go. All right, well, let me do my. I've got 3 quick hots.
Oh, go on.
Congratulations to Dory Pan on winning the F1 Academy Championship at the weekend, although she pretty much had half a hand on it going into the weekend anyway. Kobe mentioned the Nick Tandy, Harry King, Rexy lineup. If they don't make one of those teeth into a Union Jack on the front of that Porsche, I'll be extremely disappointed. And he also mentioned in Kobe's segment the Brody Kostecki news. And if anyone didn't see the graphic that was announced at the time, Kostecki signs massive Dick Johnson contract extension. Perfect.
Hot.
Superb. Well done, Supercab.
Yeah, not. It's not the one you're going for.
Also, Hots quickly. My pick of Kibby Antonelli on the show last weekend to do well. He's not his qualifying performance. Anyway.
Oh God, I just realised because of that, Nino actually got it right. With that, of course, Lando got the penalty, but also Kimi did get on the podium. So
yeah, I know. I should have put an each way on rather than him winning the race because then I would have got mine back. But
the knot I'm going for is the fact is that so we're now actively trying to kill drivers and marshals, are we? The turn one, the marshals being left in the firing line, and then in the African race, the guy doing the tractor, the safety car's coming down, actively just goes into the middle and blocks the entire track and makes the safety car slam on the brakes, nearly causing a massive accident. So we are trying to kill people now? Good. I'll remember that because we're in Qatar. Yeah. Easy. Easy.
The line I heard referenced the marshals in the Grand Prix was the line of the weekend was from Scott Mitchell-Malm on the Race Review podcast, where I think it was something, I'm paraphrasing here, he said race control meant for that to happen.
Oh, right. Okay, great.
Because, a month or so before, when the Mexican marshals did it, that wasn't meant to happen, and they blamed the race control. Oh, and also they blame Liam Lawson for just driving around and doing his job. But,
What's getting to me is I'm dating a marshal now, and I'm getting quite alarmed as the fact is that how much Formula One just seem to not care about their lives. It's getting a little bit silly.
Do such a more better job.
Yes, them, I could agree. I could agree. I haven't seen firsthand. But no, this is getting a little bit annoying now with FOM and the FIA. They need to get this under control ASAP. Hopefully, thankfully, Qatar's got a very large runoff. So does Abu Dhabi, so we should be okay. We hope.
Yeah, you wouldn't want marshals underneath the hotel at Abu Dhabi, would you? Though,
especially
now
there. Yeah, that's the tightest point. Well, it'd be safety car. We all remember Nicholas Latifi. Let's not go there.
You know what? I think there's a high chance, if the way things are going, that we won't be talking about 2021 for a while.
Yeah. 2024, 2025, isn't it? Yeah. I'm being told to hurry up. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. McLaren. They have a golden opportunity and they blow it. They really do. They've won the constructors and now they don't care who wins the drivers. They just don't care. Is it still on? Yeah. They don't care. So the floor was clearly a problem. Now, what they haven't said is the fact is that Lando was apparently nursing a fuel issue. He wasn't.
Yep.
Lando was dealing with a gearbox issue because we had the live telemetry up in the commentary box of the Monza, and Megan was watching on race control. He's on board. He was stuck. He couldn't get below third gear. Couldn't go to second. Couldn't go to first. So for about 5 laps, he had no second and first gear at all, and he was losing so much time. Because of it. So if he has to have a gearbox penalty this weekend, that's going to cost him quite a bit at a track where it's very, very, very hard to overtake at. That's why I said about Oscar for the sprint match of the Grand Prix. But that floorboard was bad, very bad.
Yeah, 0.16 of a mil I mean, it's nothing. I mean, it absolutely is absolutely nothing. But what
It's about the
could be
width.
is huge.
It's the width of that.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
yeah,
even
not
less.
even. Yeah, less.
Tiny. Maybe
The
a paper.
championship won and lost on tiny margins. Even Joey says if we have a three-way title fight for the championship going to Abu Dhabi, the FIA better not do any funny business. Good luck with that. And all the Latifi crash again with 5 laps to go.
Oh,
You have heard Joe, who is running the FIA, haven't you?
Yes. Mohammed Ben, don't look at me. This is all completely legal to learn. Also, I had to drop in to say hi. Have a enjoyable weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, whether it's a thing in your country or not. It's not. It's not because, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
No, let's not. I watched the race on delay on Sunday morning, and without checking my phone, because I was like, if I pull my phone out of my pocket, I'm just going to see the result and then whatever. So I watched as if I was watching it live, went into a group chat, put the words match point Lando, came back out of that Twitter group chat to the main feed, and then saw all the messages going, they're under investigation. Oh, God's sake. It's Breakpoint Max. Forget match point Lando, it's Breakpoint Max. He could steal in and do this. It could be 2007 all over again.
This is going to be 2007, and this is going to make the last 2 races the best Formula One, because now, for once, the tension really is there. And it's a sprint weekend as well. This is going to be so entertaining, and he can't win in the sprint. This mathematically either goes down to the Grand Prix or it goes down to Abu Dhabi. And I think it's going down to Abu Dhabi. I can't see any other way. So, yes. Yeah. Finally, F1 gets rid of that bad tasting title decider 21.
Well, aren't we all, Joe? Aren't we all nervous of that?
I am freezing in here, by the way. I'm not in my usual commentary box. I'm with the green screen. I'm in what is my girlfriend's office, and it is really cold. So I'm
So, should we wrap up? Quite literally.
Yes. I should put my scarf on. Okay, I just put my glasses. Well, her glasses back on. I've really not come here prepared. I've remembered the mic and the earpiece, but I forgot the glasses, so that was a great idea. Yeah, Daphne. Okay, so taking a look at our upcoming schedule, the Sunday Grid Live wrap-up is going to be 90 minutes after Formula One's Qatar Grand Prix, recapping the World Rally Championship and the Repco Supercars Championship season finale events in Saudi Arabia and Adelaide. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,700 subscribers. We are now inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. That is gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network's new Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, Matthew, and our newest Patreon supporter, Crystal, who all invest each month in the Grid Network. We encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the chat more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to all of this is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality called coffee, and they'll thank you on the air as well. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch of JP Motorsports. And to our American viewers, have a happy Thanksgiving and a safe Black Friday shopping. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.